In a small, bustling neighborhood in Lagos called Olusosun, on December 29th, 1998, Victor Osimhen was born. He was the last of 7 children. Victor Osimhen's childhood was shaped by resilience, family, and the will to survive. Growing up was tough. His family lived on the edge of poverty, where every day brought a new challenge. The toughest blow came when he was only a small boy. His mother passed away in October, leaving behind a family whose world would never be the same. Her passing left a void not only in Victor's heart, but in their home's foundation. His father tried his best to keep the family going, but just 3 months after her death, he lost his job. Now, the Osimhen family faced hardships like never before. With no steady income, every sibling had to find ways to contribute. Victor's older brother took to the streets, selling sports newspapers to passers-by, while his older sister stood by the roadside selling oranges. And Victor, though only a boy, began his own daily hustle, selling bottled water in the thick Lagos traffic. Every day, he weaved through cars under the blazing sun, yelling out prices and dodging cars with a nimbleness that would later serve him well on the field. Each night, the siblings would gather around their small table, laying out whatever they had earned for the day. Their big sister would carefully count the money, allocating enough for food and basic supplies. In those small, simple moments, they felt like a team, bound together by love and survival. In the midst of these challenges, laughter and moments of innocence still found their way into Victor's life. Near their home was a vast open dump, where he and his friends would scavenge for things that could be useful, especially shoes. Fridays and Sundays were special. The boys would race to the dump, hoping to find shoes they could wear or patch up. Victor often ended up with mismatched pairs, like a Nike on his right foot and a worn-out Reebok on his left. His sister would patch them up, making them usable enough for a few more days of play. Despite his circumstances, Victor had a dream that kept him going: football. With no gear, no fancy fields, and often no shoes, he played barefoot with his friends, practicing moves he had seen on television. Football became his escape, a world where he could leave behind his struggles, even if just for a little while. And in those dusty streets of Lagos, a dream began to take shape, one that would carry him far beyond the boundaries of his neighborhood. Victor Osimhen sat on the dusty bench in Lagos, staring at the ground as the coach's words echoed in his ears. "You're no longer part of the team." The words stung, and Victor's heart sank. He had worked tirelessly for this moment. And now, just when he thought he was on the verge of something big, everything was slipping away. He was 15, tall and lean, with raw talent waiting to be shaped. But it seemed that wasn't enough. The Ultimate Strikers Academy had just dropped him from their youth team. He didn't know what was worse: the rejection or the crushing thought that maybe he wasn't good enough to chase his dream anymore. But Victor wasn't the kind of boy to give up easily. He had learned long ago that life was tough, especially for a boy from Lagos who dreamed of something bigger. Football had been his escape, his way out of the streets, out of the struggles. And no matter how hard it seemed, he couldn't let go of it just yet. A few days after being dropped from the academy, Victor received an unexpected call from Shira Ayila, a scout who had seen potential in him during a local tournament. Shira was a brother to Ayila Yusuf, a former Nigerian international who had once played for the national team. It was a call that would change everything. "Young man, "There's a trial for the under-17 national team in Abuja," Shearer said. "I've seen you play. You've got something special. I want you to come." Victor's heart leaped. Abuja, the nation's capital. It was over 300 miles away, and he had never traveled that far before. He was eager, excited, but there was one problem. He didn't have the money to fly there. "You don't have to worry about that," Shearer reassured him. "I'm driving with some other boys. We'll all go together." And so, the journey began. Victor and 5 other hopefuls squeezed into Shearer's small car. The road ahead was long, winding through the heart of Nigeria. The boys were cramped, barely enough room to stretch their legs, but none of that mattered. They were heading to the trials. They were heading to their shot at greatness. The trip took 10 grueling hours. The car shook with each bump in the road, and at times they drove through stretches of land so barren, it felt as though they were the last ones left on Earth. The air was hot, and the road was dusty, but none of it mattered. They were going to the trials, and this could be the chance they had been waiting for. Finally, they arrived in Abuja. Victor stepped out of the car and looked around. There were hundreds of young players at the trials, all of them with the same dream, the same hunger burning in their eyes. The air was thick with nervous energy, and as the boys lined up for their turn, Victor's heart pounded in his chest. The coach, Emmanuel Amunike, was a former star player for Nigeria, known for his sharp footballing mind. Amunike had been tasked with sifting through all the players to pick the best ones for the under-17 team. The competition would be fierce, and Victor knew that he needed to give everything he had. Each player only had 15 minutes to impress. Victor took his place on the field, his body tensing as he waited for the ball. When it came to him, he wasted no time. His legs were long, his feet quick, and his mind sharp. He controlled the ball effortlessly, weaving through defenders with ease. He scored twice in his 15-minute stint. The crowd of coaches and scouts murmured with approval. Victor felt a rush of hope. Could this be the moment that changed everything? But as the trial ended, Victor's hopes began to fade. Coach Amunike seemed unimpressed. He shook his head and made a note in his book, not even acknowledging Victor's 2 goals. "I didn't see much," Amunike said to his staff. "Let's move on." Victor's heart dropped. Was this the end of the line? He had given it everything, but it wasn't enough. Or so he thought. Just as he was about to walk off the field, one of the assistant coaches pulled Amunike aside. "Coach, did you see that boy in the green jersey?" he asked. Amunike paused, narrowing his eyes. "Which one?" "The one who scored twice. There's something about him." "You should watch him again," the assistant insisted. Reluctantly, Amunike agreed to give Victor another chance. The next day, he watched Victor more closely. What he saw made him stop in his tracks. It wasn't just Victor's goals that stood out. It was his intelligence on the field. The way he read the game. The way he positioned himself. The hunger in his eyes. It was something Amunike knew he needed. "This boy has something," Amunike said, nodding to his assistant. Victor was selected for the team. His journey had just begun. That same hunger and intelligence would take him all the way to the Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations, where he would become the tournament's top scorer. But it was at the World Cup in Chile, where Victor's name would truly echo in the hearts of fans worldwide. And it all started in Abuja, with a 15-minute trial and a coach who saw something special. Victor couldn't believe it. Just a few months ago, he was a boy from Lagos, dropped from his youth team, feeling lost and uncertain about his future. Now he was a part of Nigeria's under-17 national team, preparing for the Africa Cup of Nations in Niger. His name, once unheard of, was now being whispered in the same breath as the legends of Nigerian football. The excitement was palpable in the team's camp. The young players were full of energy, but also a little nervous. They were about to play in front of thousands to represent their country. Victor could hardly contain his own nerves. He had dreamed of this moment for so long, but now that it was here, the weight of it all felt immense. Coach Emmanuel Amunike, who had become a mentor to Victor, gathered the team together for a final talk before their first match. "We are not just representing ourselves," Amunike said, his voice steady and calm. "We are representing Nigeria. Every pass, every move, every goal will reflect who we are as Nigerians. Play with pride, with heart, and the rest will follow." The opening match was against the host nation, Niger. The stadium was packed, the atmosphere electric. Victor stood on the sidelines as the national anthem played, his heart racing. He looked around at his teammates, boys just like him, with dreams, with hunger. But this moment was his. The whistle blew and the game began. The pressure was immense, but Victor felt something click within him. This was his time. The ball came to him early, and without hesitation, he took it in stride. He darted past his marker, then another, his legs long and swift, the ball glued to his feet. His first touch was clean, and his second, a strike with his left foot, sent the ball flying past the goalkeeper and into the net, 1-0. Nigeria was ahead, and the crowd erupted. Victor's heart pounded, but he stayed focused. He couldn't let this goal be the end of his story. It was only the beginning. Nigeria went on to win the match 3-0. Victor's goal was the highlight, but his entire performance, his composure on the ball, his ability to find space, and his determination to press forward, made him a standout. The coaches couldn't stop talking about him after the game. "Did you see the boy with the green jersey?" one of the assistants asked Amunike. "That's the one. He's going to do great things." Amunike simply nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. "I saw it from the beginning." But Victor wasn't done yet. As the tournament progressed, he became the star of the show. In Nigeria's next game, he scored another goal. A beautiful header off a corner kick that left the goalkeeper with no chance. With each match, Victor's confidence grew. He wasn't just a promising young player anymore. He was a key figure in Nigeria's charge toward the title. By the time the final came around, Victor was at the top of his game. But the challenge wasn't just on the field. It was in his mind. The pressure of being the team's star, the weight of expectation, sometimes felt like too much. Yet every time he felt doubt creeping in, he thought back to that moment in Abuja when he almost gave up, when the coach didn't see his potential, but then decided to take a second look. It was that second chance that fueled him. The final against Mali was a game for the ages. The stakes were higher than ever, and the stadium roared with anticipation. Victor could feel the eyes of the nation on him. The game was tight, the two teams evenly matched. But Nigeria had something special, a spark, an energy that couldn't be ignored. As the match wore on, the score remained 0-0. Victor's legs were tiring, but he couldn't let up. The ball came to him in the 80th minute. It was a half chance, a moment of chaos in the box. But he saw the opportunity. With a quick flick, He powered the ball into the net. 1-0, Nigeria. The stadium exploded with joy. Victor's teammates surrounded him, lifting him up as he grinned ear to ear. That was it. The goal that sealed Nigeria's victory. The goal that made them champions of Africa. Victor had delivered. And now he was not just a hopeful young boy from Lagos. He was a hero. The celebrations were wild. But for Victor, the true prize came after the final whistle blew. He had been named the tournament's top scorer. With 4 goals in the tournament, Victor had played a pivotal role in securing Nigeria's Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations title. But there was one moment that would forever define his legacy in that tournament. The look in his coach Amunike's eyes as they shook hands after the final. "You did it, Victor," Amunike said, his voice full of pride. "You're ready for the next step." And just like that, the path to the world stage opened up before him. Victor Osimhen's journey to success was never easy, but every struggle, every setback made the victory sweeter. After a standout performance in the Under-17 World Cup, Victor's life took a turn. Clubs from across Europe began to take notice, but the pressure of making the right decision was immense. He didn't just want to play football. He wanted to change his family's life. He wanted to make sure that they would never again have to endure the hardships he had faced growing up. Victor's decision to join Wolfsburg in Germany was a big one. Though it wasn't the most glamorous option, the club promised him a clear path to first-team football. For a young man from humble beginnings, this was his moment to prove that he had what it took to make it at the highest level. But life in Germany was not what he expected. Language barriers, cultural differences, and the overwhelming pressure to perform left him feeling isolated. Injuries and being played out of position only added to his frustration. The dream he had fought so hard for seemed so far away. The situation worsened when Victor fell ill with malaria during a trip back to Nigeria. He spent weeks in the hospital, unable to train or play. His body had betrayed him, and the future he had worked for seemed to slip further from his grasp. But during his time in recovery, Victor found strength. He thought about his mother, who had passed away when he was young, and how she had always encouraged him to push forward despite life's challenges. He thought about his father, who had raised him and his siblings on his own after their mother's death, and how hard he had worked to provide for them. When Victor recovered, he returned to Wolfsburg with a renewed sense of purpose. But the struggles continued. The club's new management didn't see the same potential in him that others had. And after a few frustrating months, Wolfsburg made the decision to let him go. However, Victor wasn't going to let this setback define him. He knew his talent was undeniable. Shortly after, he found a new opportunity at Belgian club Charleroi, where he was given the chance to play regularly. There, he flourished. Victor scored his first senior goal in his first start, an audacious back heel against Beveren. With every goal, his confidence grew. By the end of the season, he had netted 20 goals in 36 appearances, making him one of the hottest young talents in European football. But as his career began to take off, Victor never forgot the struggles of his family. The dream of taking them out of poverty had been his fuel all along, and now that he was earning more than he ever thought possible, he knew it was time to give back. The first thing he did when he started to make money was to buy his father a house. It was the fulfillment of a promise he had made years ago, to give his father the comfort and peace he deserved after years of sacrifice. Victor took his father to the new house, a modern home with all the amenities they had never had before. It wasn't just a house, it was a symbol of everything they had overcome together. His father's eyes filled with tears as he realized what his son had accomplished. And for the first time in a long time, the weight of their past struggles seemed to lift. Victor's move to Charleroi was just the beginning of his rise to stardom. Soon, Lille came calling, offering him a chance to play in Ligue 1, one of Europe's top leagues. Victor's success at Charleroi had earned him a €15 million transfer to the French club, where he would go on to score 18 goals in a single season. The call from Napoli came shortly after, and Victor's dream of playing for one of Europe's elite clubs was finally realized. But even as he stepped onto the world stage, with his family now secure and his career on the rise, Victor remained humble. He knew that his success wasn't just for him. It was for his father, his siblings, and everyone who had believed in him from the very beginning. It wasn't just the accolades or the fame that drove Victor. It was the drive to make his family proud. And with each goal, each victory, he kept his promise to them. The boy from a small village in Nigeria had made it to the top, but his greatest achievement was the life he had given to his family. A life they had always deserved. Victor Osimhen's rise to stardom was swift, but it wasn't without its challenges. As he settled into life in Naples with Serie A giants Napoli, he couldn't help but reflect on how far he had come. The journey from the dusty streets of Lagos to the sparkling stadiums of Europe had been anything but easy. Yet each challenge, each setback, had strengthened him. It wasn't just his talent that had brought him this far. It was his unyielding determination. A determination born from the pain of watching his family struggle. But while he was basking in the glory of his new life, there was an emptiness he couldn't shake. His father, Patrick, the man who had supported him from the very beginning, the man who had sacrificed everything to see his son succeed, was gone. The news had come as he was preparing to make his move to Napoli. The moment he had worked for all his life. Patrick had passed away just a few months before Victor's transfer was finalized, leaving a gaping hole in Victor's heart. Victor couldn't fully comprehend the reality of losing his father. The one person who had been by his side through the difficult days in Lagos, through the long hours working together in the street markets, was no longer there to share in his success. The pain of his loss weighed heavily on him, yet in the midst of it, he found himself even more determined to succeed. Not just for himself, but for the legacy his father had left behind. When he signed with Napoli, he could almost hear his father's voice, urging him to go forward, to honor all the sacrifices they had made. Even now, as Victor stood on the pitch at the Stadio Diego Armando Maradona, the weight of that promise hung over him. The team had splashed €70 million to bring him to the club, and now the pressure was mounting. Napoli had made him the centerpiece of their attack, and with that came the responsibility of performing week in and week out. Victor's life was beginning to mirror the dreams he had once held as a boy. The bright lights of Europe now beckoned him, and with each match, he was cementing his reputation as one of the most promising talents in football. The move to Napoli had come with immense pressure. His arrival, however, marked not only a new chapter in his career, but also the realization of a dream that had been inspired by years of struggle, perseverance, and an unyielding determination to change his family's fate. In Napoli, Victor's journey was marked with challenges. He was forced to battle through injuries, an unfortunate shoulder injury that saw him sidelined for months, and a later brush with COVID-19. Yet, even in those difficult moments, he kept his eyes on the prize. The first major setback came in 2021. After a promising start to his career in Italy, Victor suffered a horrific head injury during a match against Inter Milan. A fractured skull and eye socket were the diagnosis, and surgery was immediate. For a moment, his football future seemed uncertain. He was forced to miss the Africa Cup of Nations, and there was a period of intense recovery. "I'm not afraid," Victor told himself as he lay in the hospital bed. "This is part of the journey. I've come too far to give up now." The road to recovery was not easy. His doctors and family were worried about the future. But Victor, known for his resilience, fought back. October 2022 brought his biggest blessing, a daughter whom he named Hayley. Her arrival marked the beginning of a new chapter in Victor's life. His love for his family grew even more profound. With the birth of his daughter, his motivation had evolved. His daughter was the future he had dreamed of, the reason he pushed through every injury, every struggle, and every moment of doubt. He wore a protective mask for the rest of his career, but it did not diminish his skill on the field. He returned with more hunger than ever. On April 31st, 2023, Victor scored the equalizer against Udinese, which confirmed Napoli's Serie A championship for the first time in 33 years. His goal not only secured the title, but also placed him in the record books as one of the top African players in Serie A history. He shared the record for most goals by an African in Serie A with George Weah, and became the African player with the most goals in a single Italian championship season, surpassing Samuel Eto'o's record. 3 days later, Victor made history once again, scoring the decisive penalty in a 1-0 victory over Fiorentina, which made him the highest-scoring African player in Serie A history, with 47 goals, surpassing Weah's long-standing record. The 2022 to 2023 season ended with Victor finishing as Serie A's top scorer with 26 goals. He won the Capocannoniere Award, making him the first African to achieve this feat. For Victor, this was not just about breaking records, it was about what it meant for his journey. He had always dreamed of this moment, but now it felt even sweeter. He had achieved the impossible, and in the process, he had helped Napoli secure the most coveted prize in Italian football, the Scudetto. Victor became the first striker since 2009 to win both the Top Scorer award and the Scudetto, a record accomplished by Zlatan Ibrahimovic with Inter 14 years ago. Victor, 24, has now joined the exclusive list of Napoli legends, as he is only the fourth Capocannoniere winner in the post-war period for Napoli. The young striker had not only proven himself on the field, but had also become a beacon of hope for Nigerian footballers everywhere. Yet, no matter how far his career took him, Victor never forgot where he came from. And then came the biggest reward, the recognition he had always dreamed of, African Footballer of the Year. Victor was overjoyed, but the honor was bittersweet. His parents weren't there to share the moment, to see the son they had always believed in reach the heights of his dreams. But Victor knew that his parents had been with him every step of the way, guiding him even from beyond. He has finally made them proud. After his remarkable achievements with Napoli, Victor had every reason to think his future with the Italian giants was secure. But just as the football world can lift a player to unimaginable heights, it can also turn unexpectedly cold. Victor had a fallout with Napoli, and he wanted to leave the club. Napoli excluded Victor from the Serie A squad and stripped him of his number. Victor at that point parted ways with his agent. Galatasaray quickly reached out, and he was able to secure a transfer on loan to Galatasaray. The Turkish club welcomed him with open arms, offering him the chance to play regular football once again. Before he knew it, Victor was on his way to Istanbul, embracing a new chapter with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. Turkey was a new challenge, a new culture. But Victor had always thrived on proving himself. This was just one more opportunity to show the world, and himself, that he was ready for anything. In Istanbul, Galatasaray fans greeted him like a hero. Banners with his name, chants echoing through the stadium, and a passionate crowd eager to see him in action gave him a sense of belonging. Victor felt the spark return. He might not be wearing Napoli's colours anymore, but football remained his true love. And he would give his all for these new fans. And the story continues. This is just the beginning. Victor Osimhen's journey to greatness is a story of resilience, passion, and belief in the power of dreams. From his humble beginnings to the heights of football glory, he has shown that with hard work and faith, anything is possible. If you enjoyed this inspiring story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join our growing community. Make sure to like this video, leave a comment below about what part of Victor's journey inspired you the most, and share it with your friends and family who need a little motivation today. And of course, don't forget to click on the notification bell so you never miss more incredible stories like this. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.